Shedeur Sanders not drafted in the first round. People are pretty split on this. Our boy, Skip Bayless. Shedeur Sanders is so much better than Jackson Dart. This is just laughably sad. Obviously, we'll talk about it, but Jackson Dart going to the Giants. And here, I'm going to throw this up. This is from Nick Saban, legend, icon. And this is basically about expectations versus reality. And I think this is a really interesting rant from Nick Saban right here.
Yeah, we shouldn't take any player and create an expectation for him, because basically it's not about where you get picked. It's about when you get picked, do you take the opportunity that you were given to make the best of the opportunity that you have. And I think Shedeur Sanders is going to do that. And we created this expectation for this guy that he was going to get picked. Now, but that just creates an expectation. It's not a reality. The teams that evaluate players and give them opportunities, that's what matters. And Shedeur is going to get picked, and he's going to have a great career. And I wish we quit talking about when he gets.
Okay, so Nick Saban basically talking about the difference of expectation versus reality. And I do think, Scott, kind of what you're saying is all the media fanfare surrounding him, some of them just due to the nature of him being the son of Deion Sanders, and then some possibly at his own, maybe fault is not the right word, at his own doing, leaning into the media aspect of things. Combination of that has increased the expectations for him. So essentially anything other than a first round pick feels kind of like a disappointment, no?
But Saban clearly was not having a whole lot of fun here. To his point, though, I would push back a little bit, because yes, the media is guilty of doing this and putting the expectations on the kid. But it's not as though, as I mentioned before, it's not as though Shedeur tried to dim that limelight. He didn't do it himself. Like he continued to feed that beast in the same way. And we've talked about, you do need bravado and you do need some sort of over the top confidence to be a quarterback in the league, but it's all about how you let that manifest out there. And I feel as though he was playing into the media talent realm, which also added to the crazy behemoth of the media behind him anyway. So it's kind of a bit of both here. I don't think it's all incumbent upon the media, as Nick is, I think, speaking to here. It's also some responsibility does fall on Shedeur and I guess the family too.
Coach Saban. You will refer to Coach Saban with respect. You're not on a first station with Coach Saban, Scott. Nick,
hey man, he's not on the sideline anymore, baby.
He's a media behemoth. Just like us, media behemoths. Okay. Last thing on this, there was, I don't know, maybe I'll throw this up here. So he was talked about as like a pretty high prospect for a while. And then it was kind of recently that his name started to slide. It was almost like, do you guys watch the movie Draft Day? You know Draft Day?
Mm-hmm.
Great
too well.
Great movie, by the way. Okay. Kevin Costner, Browns GM, Scott. But basically the story of that, for those who haven't seen it, is that a quarterback who was deemed to be a really high-level prospect, the number one prospect, falls in the draft due to some sort of personality stuff or rumors. And there were some anonymous sources coming out like this last week, the final week before the draft, saying that Shedeur Sanders' interviews were among the worst NFL interviews that these anonymous sources had ever experienced in their time in evaluating players. What do you make of stuff like this that comes out anonymously, people not putting their name to it, but making a pretty bold claim like that?
I think it was an AFC assistant coach, is if my memory serves correctly here. I think that's who the leak was, but outside of that, there's no more information. Look, it's smoke and mirror season. Like this happens every year leading up to the draft. We see somebody's name fall or their stock drop or a stock rise. As we talked to Mike Williams the other day, he's talking about, there's some veracity to some of these things with the accumulation of information that just happens at this point in time, because it takes time to sift through all that information and then meeting people in person, maybe even multiple times, because a first impression is great. Yes. But also that second interview or that second conversation you might dive a little deeper into who that person is. Some of this is smokescreen season, which I get the sense that this was trying to drop him. I wouldn't be surprised too if it were a team that ends up drafting him is the one who was leaking this information, because they want to position themselves. They don't want to burn an early pick, but they want to use a later pick on him. So they burn his name first and foremost. My suspicion is that it might be Cleveland, being that they have the 33rd and 36th.
Playing dirty.
Here.
Cleveland, I like
I
it.
don't
See,
know.
this is what they need to turn things around.
There
Okay.
you go, Scott.
Into the gray a little bit.
I am all right. So since you brought that up, let's get into this then, because Cleveland obviously had the number 2 pick, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, well, congrats guys, you're gonna get Travis Hunter." And Scott, you were talking about that. Hey, maybe we'll get Travis Hunter. You guys went ahead and dished away the number 2 pick, ended up dropping to 5. And here is the full breakdown of the deal with the Jaguars. Obviously, the Jaguars then went ahead and selected Travis Hunter at number 2. But the Browns, you guys now are going to have what, 2 first-round picks in 2026? You got a haul of picks right here. And dare I say, Scott, that the Cleveland Browns are operating with some sort of foresight and intelligence here, because you guys obviously stuck with the Deshaun Watson situation and the picks that you dished away. Now maybe earning a couple of those back. Do you feel good about this move?
I don't know if stuck is the right word. I think we locked ourselves in from the get-go, being that all of that money was guaranteed up front. So the only way that we can function after we've paid Miles is to build in the draft. And I know, harkening back to our conversation with my uncle again, he was talking about, oh, okay, yeah, that's in an ideal world, you'd build through the draft and so on and so forth, but you got to find ways to plug people and find different talent streams to pull from. Well, the Browns don't have that luxury, literally, because they don't have the money to do so. So they have to build in the draft. They have to garner some sort of capital in draft picks in order to fulfill the needs of their roster. And I think this move was actually pretty substantial, pretty solid, because like, look, getting 33rd and 36th pick here in the second round, I think is a sneaky move on their part to really get high quality talent, or the opportunity to snag high quality talent at this moment in time. And that's why I say the smoke and mirrors, I think they're playing a game that nobody's expecting them to play. And you know, to what degree I like that they passed on Travis, it's very minimal. You know, Travis is a generational talent, generational athlete. We don't know how he's going to pan out in the NFL ultimately, but I gotta think he's going to do pretty damn well. So it kind of hurts to see that, but at the same time, I understand what they're doing.
I mean, yeah, because obviously this first round stuff, this first day stuff does not solve your guys' quarterback woes. But John Fanta, friend of the show, who was on us last week, 2 weeks ago, he obviously another Browns fan from Cleveland. He said, so after all of that, the Browns have 2 of the first 4 picks of the second round of this draft and 2 first rounders next year. They also got to pair a guy with Myles Garrett, and at 33 and 36, no shortage of options to help the offense. Huge Friday for Cleveland. If they go ahead and end up drafting Shedeur early in the second round, that would be a nice little move. I would walk away saying, all right, Cleveland, something positive here. A bright light, perhaps, for you guys.
Perhaps, but I mentioned it at the top too. I'm a little hesitant because I've been burned so many times that we still may be going for the name. While it may be a more strategic and thoughtful way of grabbing the name, it's still grabbing the name for grabbing the name's sake. And that's what's a little frustrating in my mind is I'm hesitant to go ahead and like champion this move if they do that, because I haven't watched enough on Shedeur. I've only seen all of the media stuff, a few of the games and everything like that. So I'm not as deep into the weeds of the analysis of his game and everything like that. So I'm a little concerned that it might be Johnny 2.0, just because it's such a big name and everything around that.
Right. But there is, to me, at least, a bit of a difference if you draft a quarterback in the second or the third round than if you draft one in the first round, right? Obviously, the financial aspect, okay, that's better. But then the pressure aspect, like even just from the fans' point of view or the organization's point of view, if you're a second, third round quarterback, you're probably expected to sit. Who'd you guys sign? You got Joe Flacco, veteran, okay?
Don't say it like that.
No. I said it in a nice. I said it in an endearing way. What do you want me to say? You guys got Joe freaking Flacco, man.
Yes. Never should have let him go. This is okay. I hear what you're saying there. And I think from a financial standpoint, this was obviously a strategic move as I've been pointing to, and a great one at that from a financial standpoint. I disagree with the pressure though, because it is Shedeur, and he has built up his brand to a certain degree, whether it be by the media's behemoth behind him or himself, as I've mentioned before. The expectation is still going to be super high, regardless of when he was drafted, because of the way he's gone about his process here. Yes, we have Joe. He's as I love him to death, but he's on the back end of his career.
Sure.
And Deshaun injured, not going to be playing. We're going to be needing a quarterback to plug in right away. So expectation is going to be there to win and win now, which is I don't know. You can say that's unfair, but
I don't know if it really is going to be that way for you guys. You guys are clearly building for like next year's quarterback class. I believe is supposed to be a lot better than this. This year is not a good quarterback class. Like even we're talking about these top 3. We had 6 quarterbacks last year taken in the top 10, top 12, and a good handful of them are proving to pan out already in their rookie season. And this year we've had 2 taken in the first round, and even of those prospects, it's like, next year probably looking better. And so the Browns positioning themselves to perhaps be in a spot to draft one of the quarterbacks in a better quarterback draft class next year. I like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's also a scenario here that we haven't touched on yet is, look, Arch Manning is going to be available come next draft year. But that would mean that the organization would want to tank come this upcoming season. I don't believe that's the case. No NFL team is really putting their entire franchise and future on a potential draft pick, regardless of their last name. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Arch Manning to the Browns would be incredible. He seems like the kind of guy that they would always pass up for a worse, riskier decision. And if they could just, for once, pick a guy like this who's stable, comes from a football family. I mean, that's
Mike. It sounds like you're making an argument. A guy who comes from a football family. You talking about Shedeur Sanders? He's like,
Okay. You know, a less flashy, a more team-oriented football family. How disappointed was Dion in that living?
I think Dion was
got to be terrible.
Pretty disappointed. Although I did see a video of Shedeur because he obviously had like a huge draft party, tons of people, a lot of cameras there. Understandable. And he gave a little speech at the end, and it was classy, and it made me feel like, all right, Shedeur, here's a little digital fist bump from me. I respect your attitude on this, because he was basically like, yeah, it is what it is. It's disappointing. It's not what we wanted, but tomorrow's a new day. It's like, all right, Shedeur. So I respected the hell out of that.
He did just tweet something out here if we want to, or I posted on IG if we want to share it here real quickly. I'll pop it up.
You have it?
My Bible. Does he have a different version? I tweet a few things. This one's a little more tailored to what I want out of life, I think.
All right, there we go. I can see it now. All right, it says, my Bible says God uses the foolish things to confound the wise. He chose the weak things of the world that he may put to shame the strong. Please know God ain't done, and God is just really getting started. Enjoy this lesson and stop stressing. Coach Prime. Yeah. I like that. I respect that. I like that attitude that they have.
Yeah, because that's just a message of like, hey, this is a lesson of humility, which, like, if someone needs a dose of it to help them, reach the potential and heights of their potential, it could be Shedeur, and he could take this and make this something great in his career. Much like, we talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown and how he remembers each person that was drafted before him. And that's why he wears the numbers, because he was selected 14th, if I remember correctly, or 14 people were selected before him. And, it's a driver in what has made him such a great wide receiver in the NFL.
Why?
I think it's something that'd be good for Shedeur, actually. I think he'll be able to be one of those guys who turns into motivation. It might have been good for him to get this just a little slight humbling before going to the NFL, and kind of it'll round him out a little bit.
I think he's gonna be fine. I think he's gonna be solid. I think he's gonna be fine. I think he's gonna get picked on day 2. Yeah, go ahead.
While I love my Browns, I do worry for him. I think this is the best thing to happen to him for his career. I do worry for him if he goes to a place like the Browns, where I'm saying, like, expectations, and he'll be tossed to the wolves right away. And I don't necessarily think that's the best thing for young first-year quarterbacks, to be tossed to the wolves, especially at bad organizations. We've seen so many people fall by the wayside or just get like absolutely trammeled because they go to, say, the Jets or the Giants, and they just can't get their feet underneath them because they're getting chased around left and right all day. I mean, even Bryce Young, he's corrected himself, which is incredible over the past year, but his first year was brutal. So it's just, I have some concern if he goes there, but I think this is best for his career that he gets placed in a spot that he can learn from somebody who's in the room and playing at the same time. And ultimately, I think that's what the Giants did when they moved up to get Jackson, because they made offseason moves. They snagged our Jameis Winston, sad.
Sure.
And then they went and got Russell Wilson. So it's like, okay, we got two savvy vets, one of which is a Super Bowl winning guy, still playing pretty solidly, regardless of the final 6-7 games of the year last year with the Steelers. And they bring in Jackson to where he's not going to have the pressure to be on the field right away to play. There are two guys who could definitely step foot on the field and command under center right away, and he can learn from both of them. So I think this would be ideal if Shedeur entered into a locker room where at least there was one person who could do that. And yes, I say Joey Flacco could be that guy, but he is much older. He's much older than Russell. So like the chances of him getting injured or the performance lagging is much higher, or the risk of that happening is much higher. So that's why he would probably be thrown to the wolves sooner.
Okay, all right, I get you on that on the physical aspect of things, but I feel Joe Flacco from a mentorship standpoint would be great for a young. Okay,
I do.
Okay, you're talking about from the physical, the fact that perhaps a backup quarterback would then get thrown in earlier. All right, so there we have it. That's like obviously the biggest story out of the draft so far. Let's bang on a couple other picks here real quick, and it's funny. It feels like this is the quietest number one pick in a long time, Cam Ward. Because we got some of these other flashy guys. Obviously, Cam Ward, which was like locked to be the number one pick going to the Tennessee Titans. And the fact of the matter is this guy was a 0-star recruit out of high school. This guy had no Division I FBS offers. He had to go to an FCS school. Scott, can you imagine that?
A loser.
What a loser. FCS? Wow.
This tells you how stupid these star ratings are. These guys.
Yeah.
It's meaningless. I love this is beautiful.
It's
star number one overall. See, it means nothing.
See?
Yeah.
So,
Talent and will out. Like that's ultimately what it is within this game.
Well, it's also, I mean, that's kind of like what your uncle was saying the other day, Scott. Is like, I mean, and even when what Nick Saban was saying on that clip there is it comes down, okay, you get your opportunities, and what do you do with your opportunities? You and your mentality and how you approach the opportunity that you have to make the most of it. And this is a guy that did just that. Balled out at the Division I AA level, and then went to Washington State for 2 years, did really well there, and then went to Miami for 1 year, did great, and now is the number one draft pick. A little worried about going to Tennessee, though. I don't know. At least Tennessee's done with Will Levis. A little bit sad that we're going to be missing out on the Will Levis memes, though. That guy was killer for memes. I mean,
I think they're still coming. Yeah, like he'll be on the sideline and he'll still be providing
from the bench. All right, bench memes. Okay, so Cam Ward, awesome for him. And he was just like a really, really nice emotional interview on the stage when he got interviewed, just talking about, man, he kind of tearing up, talking about how, I remembering back to being a little kid and wanting this so badly, and he got it.
What I like about Cam is, one, he's entering, you're talking about Will Levis and all that stuff, still kind of a question mark as to how Tennessee is going to produce on the field this year. What's really cool is like Brian Callahan, he's an offensive mind. He's a young coach.
True.
There have been bright moments within his tenure. And I think this is going to be a good coupling with Cam and him just coming up and scheming on the offensive side of the ball and seeing Cam develop as a quarterback himself. Cause like clearly he's shown, we're talking about seeing guys who have gone through adversity, being CEOs of teams and to do it all kind of guy. Like Cam has proven that, yes, at a lower level of ball, but he's gone from, as you said, FCS to FBS to a high level of FBS. And he's done it at every place he's been to. So the great indicator of future success is past success. And I think Cam is showing that in a lot of what he has done on his resume. And I think that coupling with Brian Callahan is actually going to be huge positive for them moving forward.
It's a good point. I also saw, I can't remember all of the quarterbacks that Brian Callahan worked with. Who did he work with? Mike, can you maybe look it up? Some big names. Who was it? Where was he? Did he work with Joe Burrow? Did he work?
Yeah, he was at Cincy. So,
with quarterbacks that ended up being very, very successful in the league is essentially what I'm getting at. Okay, Mike, you don't have to look it up, Mike. Thanks.
No, it's for my own curiosity.
Well, no, I don't want you to know. Also, another player, lot of hype around him, probably pretty well deserved. Ashton Jeanty going 6-2. The Raiders, Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. That's going to be interesting. But I thought this was really, really cool. Because here, let me read this just for those just listening. Soon to be NFL first round draft pick. Okay, this is before he got drafted. Will be a case study, NIL case study for years to come. He passed on $1 million payday a year ago, putting trust in the Boise State program and its coaches. He displayed two things rarely emphasized during the NIL era: loyalty and patience. He became the face of the program. He broke records and is seemingly beloved nationally now. Well, was it worth it? Here are the rookie contract values for the top 10 picks in the 2025 NFL draft. And if you look at number 6, that value of that contract, $31 million. Probably more than that. Well, literally more than the $1 million payday he would have gotten at a different program. And who knows what type of success he would have had at that program. Would it have looked similarly? Would that program put everything behind him to let him shine in the same way that he did? So I thought that this was really, really cool and kind of a beautiful moment and a beautiful example in the world of NIL where we don't see this very often.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you're somebody who's projected first round, I think you really have to be careful about what kind of deals you're taking and how that looks. But I think like if you're like 4th round and beyond, I think you got to start taking the money and doing that. 'Cause I don't think, when teams aren't investing that heavily in you, first, second round past then, that loyalty that Jeanty showed here, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because if we look at the Nico Iamaleava situation from Tennessee, who then left to go to UCLA, less money. If he would have just stayed put, playing at a bigger program, like he had a pretty solid year last year, like he probably would have been a higher draft pick than if he left. Because now I think he has a larger mountain to climb at UCLA. Worse players around him, less national exposure, less money. And I mean, I do think that there's something to that if you're not going to, I don't know, get drafted or not projected in a certain round. But it's just, I don't know. It's a shimmering, shiny light in the world of disgusting transfer portal.
Yeah, I gotta think that his background and just his upbringing probably helped him in this regard. And that's not saying anything toward, say, Nico or whatever. Like, this is just talking strictly about Jeanty's background. Like, he comes from a military family. He's faced the adversity of living in different places and having to adapt and learn and how to like integrate into new cultures, new communities, new teams, and all that kind of stuff. So, there's probably an element of him being at Boise State and feeling like that was home for him, and he didn't need to rip himself away because he's probably experienced that a lot, and he was probably having deep connections with his guys on that team and his coaching staff and everything like that. So like there's an endearing quality for him to stay, not just for money's sake. But I was going to say, it's actually pretty cool that he spent some time in Naples playing, I think it was middle school ball and a little bit of high school ball before hopping back over to the States.
He could probably get his Italian passport and play on the Italian national team. Mike. Pretty dope.
It's a competition.
He's going
to take my spot on the national team.
Yeah, don't help him get his passport. That was like actually a huge deal. People in Italy were sharing all this stuff. Oh, he played football in Italy. Pretty dope. Love that, military kids. Okay. A couple other picks real quick. Scott, staying in the Midwest. The Bears have selected the Bears. So they went with Colston Loveland from Michigan with the 10th pick when a lot of people were talking about Tyler Warren from Penn State being the number 1 tight end. Some people kind of confused. I'm seeing a lot of memes from Bears fans. Like, what's going on here? Okay. Hear me out. This guy is a little bit more Jake LaPorta than Tyler Warren. And Ben Johnson just coming from the Lions, who had a lot of success and used Jake LaPorta really, really well to the point where he was one of the top 5 most productive tight ends in the NFL, I believe. And Loveland his game more similarly compares to LaPorta. I feel like Ben Johnson probably had a little bit extra influence in this type of decision. What do you think?
I know our tweet right there said classic Bears taking a terrible pick. Thank you, intern. That's not necessarily what we think, but because like it's all like there are details here that I think on the surface a lot of fans are just up in arms about because they wanted the highest rated individual who might not actually fit the best because, you're not going to looking at Tyler Warren. I would compare him just off what I know of him to be very more akin to like a Juszczyk sort of producer.
Right.
But to your point, I like the comparison to LaPorta and what Ben Johnson was able to do with Laporta in that offense was insane. So
Yes.
like it only makes sense that he would choose someone like this as opposed to a Tyler Warren. And I don't think Warren ended up bad at all. I think the Colts got an absolute steal there with him. I think it was at 14. So yeah, I don't hate on this move. It is a little alarming, but coming from an organization or a fan from an organization that usually goes for like the highest name or the shiniest name, I actually applaud this decision here.
Ooh, shiny. Ooh, shiny. Ooh, shiny. Ooh. All right, that's my impression of the Browns, Scott.
Browns fans.
Okay, there's a couple other picks I want to talk about, but before that, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this because there's a lot of buzz going around about this. Look, this is the attendance for people literally attending the draft. This is Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is not only the smallest market in the NFL, this is the smallest market major sports team, or smallest market for a major sports team in the entire United States, Green Bay, Wisconsin. And they had, I think, 205. They said 205,000 here. I also saw 250,000 here. I know a couple of guys who went from Germany to the draft. It's a huge deal. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, on where you're standing. Do you think this is cool? Do you think that this is silly? Where are you?
I think it's cool. It's like, I love the reverence that people have for like what their team, who their teams are picking, and just all the hope that they have. 90% of the time ends in horrible disappointment, but there's just so much hope associated with the draft. It's like people who love New Year's, it's a great new party. They go, this year, my team's going to do it this year. I really mean it. And this guy's going to turn it around for us. And so they get to ride that hopium for a nice little rush, a nice little weekend getaway. It's crazy that Green Bay warranted that level of attendance.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. The place is so boring.
It's like a neighborhood and then the football stadium.
Yeah.
It's suburbs here. Okay. I like the comparison to New Year's. It's like, okay, this is my year. It's different. All right. I'm going to do it. Scott, where do you stand on people mass attending the NFL draft and all of the hoopla around it?
Yeah, I like the energy that's around it. I think what's sad about this is that this has become like a Super Bowl event for a lot of fans who may not otherwise be able to pay to go to the Super Bowl because those tickets have become so expensive, and you don't get like the diehard fans necessarily. You just get the people who are probably able to pay that high ticket amount to go to Super Bowls. So like, I like that the NFL is call it catering, or at least offering an opportunity of heightened fandom and energy to the fans to go and experience something like this. Do I think, as I said at the top of the show, do I think that the draft deserves this sort of, parade? No, but the NFL is a business. They're finding an opportunity, and they're, again, catering to the love of fans. And as Mikey's saying, to the hopium of the fans and utilizing that. So, it's a great opportunity to sort of parade the NFL around the country to those markets like a Green Bay that don't get the Super Bowls because they're an outdoor field, outdoor stadium, all that kind of stuff. So I'm a fan of it, but I also think like, okay, we could very well come to the point in which we're jumping the shark here on the draft. I think if we keep it at this, that's great, but I don't see the NFL stopping at this.
Scott, all right. So Mikey, you're a fan. Mikey, I am also a fan.
I think Scott, you milk that for everything it's worth. Take it as high as it'll go from the NFL perspective.
This is what I'm saying. That's the height.
NFL fans are
reached
crazy.
The height.
I don't know. I think with NFL fans, you could take it so far.
We have not.
They'll do anything. They'll blow any amount of money to digest more NFL fanaticism, content, whatever.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think the NFL is going to push it as far as they can from a business perspective because they see the exact same thing. They know that the NFL fan will pay, but from a fan's perspective, who's maybe not as energized as those people who are standing there for 5 hours doing this, like it looks a little foolish when you have an announcement about an announcement that's to come in May, and that's supposed to be some sort of like, oh yeah, I'm going to cheer for that. Like, come on.
I know, but you played football. You played in college. You've seen behind the curtain. So the magic's gone for you. All these people, the NFL is magical. It's a magical thing. And once you play it and you see how the sausage is made, and you're like, all right, then it all loses its luster. But for these people who are lifelong fans who maybe play a little bit in high school or whatever, and their identity is wrapped up in their team, it is peak experience for them.
Right. That's an interesting point,
Which
Mike.
there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that.
I wish I could still appreciate football the way standard fans do.
Oh yeah,
Well,
same.
We'll get you neurolinked and we'll get your brain reset so you can appreciate football. But there's a NFL player that we know, Mike, that said that to us. So basically, it's like, you see all these fans and everything is so emotional and so diehard for them. But for a lot of the guys in the NFL, it's just my job. The players, not to say the players don't care about winning, but the fans they care more. The fans care more. The city and the culture of the organizations care more. And so there is a little bit more magic on the outside for fans. But this is interesting. I think this is an interesting point right here for those just listening. The Super Bowl doesn't prove that the NFL is king. Having 250,000 people stand in a parking lot to hear 32 names being called in 4 hours does. That's a joke. However, there's a lot of truth to that. That just goes to show the power and the aura and the gravitas of the NFL. That, okay, Scott, I understand what you're saying. On the surface, this is essentially a very trivial activity. However, there still somehow is a bunch of magic and a bunch of hope wrapped up in it that gets us hyped up for the NFL season. It's sort of beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I won't use the term realist here because it gets you going. But
okay,
the pessimistic view here. The pessimistic view here is 90% of these guys who are drafted even in the first round won't pan out beyond 5 years. And the energy and hype, it's all about the hopium, as you guys are saying. And the NFL is just feeding off of off of that. And like, that's why I say, like, come on, fans. Like, I get it, you love it, but let's dial it back. Let's not make this an absolute spectacle. And I mean that in a negative way, to where it's kind of a joke. That's what I don't want to have happen. I want to preserve, like, this is a really cool thing, but we don't need to make it bigger than it really is.
Scott, to live without hope is to cease to live. Okay, you know who said that? Dostoevsky. Okay,
I'm not
right. One of the greatest.
You heard it here first.
Okay,
Scott is anti-hope. Scott, you guys out there thinking things can get better. Scratch that.
Oh, Scott hates hope.
His words.
It's funny, Scott, for a guy who's a fan of an organization that's running on the fumes of hope. I would think that you would try and grab onto any sort of hope that you could, huh?
No, fumes. No, we've had our hope dashed so many times that we know that hope can be a just as much as it can be a medicine that helps you get beyond the struggles that you're going through. It can also be a hindrance. So like you have to approach it with caution, and it needs to be tempered.
All right, there we go. So there we have. Hopefully next year there's 500,000 people at the draft.
But you're right. This tweet does do it.
It does. Yeah, doesn't it?
The NFL is king here in the States. By
yeah,
far.
I mean, it's even there's draft parties here in Germany where people like, look, these guys, what time does it start in the States? 8. So here in Germany, it's starting way later. And these guys are staying up all night watching the draft. They're having draft parties. They got work tomorrow. Like, it's crazy.
Do they?
No, it's there's probably a holiday or they're receiving some sort of government assistance. It's very generous here. You don't have to work if you don't want to. So I told you I didn't want to get political. Should we talk about a couple other picks or should we move on to NBA playoffs?
Well, I think we need to highlight Will Campbell just briefly.
Oh, yeah. Let's go, Will Campbell. This is my favorite. This dude is my favorite. So Will Campbell coming out of LSU. A lot of talk about how his arms are too short. I hate that. I think that's so stupid. This guy, and we talked about it on the show previously for some of his post-game interviews that went viral during the football season. I love this guy so much. I want to be his friend. I think he's going to have great success. Check this out. All right, this is a little clip of him.
You are brought to New England to protect Drake May. What kind of tone are you going to set on this offensive line?
I'm going to fight and die to protect them with everything I've got.
You love to hear this from an offensive lineman, one, and he is full of one-liners. This guy seems to have his head just screwed on straight. Guy plays like a maniac at left tackle, and this is exactly what a young quarterback at the Patriots needs in Drake May. He needs somebody there that's literally willing to die for him, in his own words. And this is such a quintessential Patriots pick, and not only just Patriots, but it's quintessential because of who's at the head coaching position right now. And I love this through and through. I think this makes the Patriots just so much better, or at least sets them up for it sets the foundation for future success.
Like if I was a GM, I would only pick O lineman, only O lineman.
Yeah.
Skill positions, O lineman and a quarterback. Every skill position can be swapped out. They're all the same.
Interchangeable, damn near interchangeable. And it's like if you get a receiver that's really, really great, you got to pay him $100 million in 5 years. Get a young one. Get a young receiver.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah. Also, I looked in the first round. 18 of the 32 picks were trenches guys, offensive and defensive line. And I like that. That's smart.
It's a good trend.
I did hear that recently, like before, like I don't know, in the final weeks or so, Vrabel went down and did a visit with Will Campbell, and he had him. He like put on one of those shields on his chest, and was like, "Punch me," just to get a sense of his power. And apparently, Campbell punched him and rocked him, and he fell on his ass. And they're like, "All right, we're gonna drop him." So, it's good. He passed the test.
That's the Vrabel test. I love that. We need more of that in coaches.
I'm gonna die for him. I love that.
He pulled his shirt up, flexed his core, and said, "Go ahead, hit me. Go ahead, hit me."
So that's how you get drafted, top 5 overall. So there we go. And hopefully, because the Patriots were 31 out of 32 for pass protection or pass protection efficiency last year. And let's hope that our boy Campbell can fix that. I think that he can. He's got the attitude. He's got the spirit of a 55-year-old man. Maybe a 70.
That's an O lineman that you can market really well. Like that could be a top selling jersey. O linemen never have top selling jerseys.
That's crazy. He has a star personality.
Yeah. You could get a good like cult following with this guy.
Love that. Okay. Love that. It's rare to have that on the offensive line, but he's got it. All right. We can't forget. It's crazy how like the NBA playoffs are going on right now. And Scott, I know you're probably not going to like this, but that the NFL draft just dwarfs the first round of the NBA playoffs in terms of coverage, not just for us, but for everybody. Everybody's talking more about the draft than NBA playoffs. We do have to touch on the NBA playoffs. Your boys, Scott, your Cavs are sitting pretty, leading at 2-0. Okay. And we had what was, I believe, the second largest comeback in NBA history when OKC came back the other night. Here, let me throw this up. Yeah, they were down. This is crazy. They were down 29 points at halftime. There it is. That's the score at halftime. Thunder Grizzly 28. Sorry, didn't go to Yale. And that's the end score right there. And we had a couple clips here of them actually playing like really good defense here. Scott, I think you said, "Wow, what do you know? Defense actually wins games."
Yeah.
But that's the thing with NBA playoff basketball is a different sport than regular season basketball right here. We got the defense coming in clutch at the end for them to win it. So that's where we're at with NBA playoffs right now with these guys. What are your thoughts on this? How you feeling about the Cavs?
Dude, I absolutely love the Cavs. Evan Mobley was just named Defensive Player of the Year. Fear the reach. This guy has been an absolute animal all year, obviously getting that award. And there are a number of Cavs players and coaches up for the Coach of the Year and everything like that. And that's what I love about this team is like they've just quietly amassed top-notch players and a top-notch roster without being like all up in the media and everything like that. Obviously, everybody's focused on LeBron and Stephen A and everything like that, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and all that. But I love what's going on in Cleveland right now. Just stay quiet, keep winning.
Yeah, you guys are really quiet. It is crazy.
Quietest 64-win team I've ever come across. I mean, that's 9 games off the record. Are you serious? Like, and we're not talking about.
Very well mannered. It's good. It's polite.
It's a polite. See, you guys are the Cam Ward of the NBA playoffs right now. Just quietly going about your business. Number 1 seed, doing very well. Who do you got? Okay, you guys are up 2-0. You'll play either the Pacers or the Bucs. Oh, you're going to play the Pacers. The Bucs are just.
Yeah, the wheels are falling off there.
Wheels are falling off the Bucs, even though they did get Damian Lillard back from his blood clot situation. And then in the West, what do we like here? Okay, Rockets, Warriors, they're tied 1-1. Lakers, Timberwolves tied 1-1. Nuggets, Clippers. This is interesting. Do you think Jokic is going to be able to bring them back? They're down 2-1 right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously there was something going on in the locker room. If Malone got fired as he did in the last week of the regular season, something's going on that I don't think we're all privy to because that roster is insane. It's just there's something going on because they should be playing better than they are. I'm not going to count them out because they have Nikola. He's just such a mystery box of a player that you don't know. His triple doubles could just shoot through the roof here in the playoffs, and they can make a run for it. So
you think like, with a situation like that where they're firing Malone this close to the playoffs, you think that a player with Jokic's gravity has any insight on that, or like you think that maybe the management would? Do you think they talk to him about it, give him a heads up? Hey, we're gonna part ways with head coach. Or do you think that perhaps there was some sort of beef?
There had to have been,
right?
Yeah, I don't know if it was with Jokic. He doesn't seem like a guy would, especially after having such a resume with Malone, and he's been playing for him for some time. That I don't think it would have been him. There were rumors that he had lost the locker room. And a lot of speculation around Russell Westbrook being a reason. I don't know if that's fair to Russell, but yeah, there was something.
When you lose the locker room, how do you get it back?
You can't. That's why you have to.
You just have to leave.
You have to leave.
Go.
It's like when a king has to be executed or something. It's just you got to go. You can't come back. You got to be head.
I am familiar with those situations.
Are you? What, with your coaches losing the locker room?
No. The Kings having to be executed.
Look, listen, see, I'm in Europe here. Okay, I've been reading a lot about the Holy Roman Empire. All right. You don't like my king being beheaded reference when you lose the locker room? It's the same. You lose society, you lose your city state, beheaded. Hello?
You guys want a funny? Keep going.
City state. That's the Greeks.
You want a funny bit about King Henry?
Sure.
And his 7 wives.
Yep.
He was a serial beheader because divorce was so, not accepted during the time.
Sure.
So when he got bored of his wives, he'd behead them. They died. Now he can marry again. And this is a guy who just kept giving love a chance. Okay. So based off of what you're saying, that's what that reminded me of.
Talk about hope. Okay?
Talk about hope.
He must have been a Cleveland Browns fan. There you go. You know what? What's that called? That's called a callback right there. Perfectly scripted comedy moment. All right, NBA playoffs are still in the middle of round 1. Thunder going to run away with it, and we'll see what happens in these other series are interesting. All right, there we have it, and we've got second round of NFL draft today, and we will be talking about that probably on Monday as some other things. All right, everybody, thanks for watching.